Bleach, the Thousand Year Blood War Episodes 6 and 7 aired in Japanese on November 15th and November 22nd, 2022. The Soul Society is in absolute disarray as the leader of the Quincy army continues his attack. However, an infuriated head captain Yamamoto arrives on the battlefield and unleashes his secret but immensely powerful Bankai in an attempt to halt the invasion. We also once again look into the past of the Soul Society to better understand the conflict of the present, while Ichigo struggles to release himself from his prison cell. So on today's video, I'm going to be giving my first thoughts on Bleach, the Thousand Year Blood War Episodes 6 and 7.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another I mean the 124th. Now of course, as usual for these first thoughts videos, I just wanted to give a disclaimer up front. Most importantly, I wanted to remind you that this is not going to be a scripted review. While I did have notes while recording this video, it was really just recording my thoughts immediately after watching the episodes. So just keep that in mind while you watch the video in case I get any details about the episode wrong, or in case I change my opinion in the future. In addition, as a reminder, you will be watching footage of Bleach Brave Souls while I talk about the episodes, because I'm always afraid how YouTube will react if I use the footage from these shows or movies that I review. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about the episodes. Okay, so I'm just gonna be completely upfront with you. I am losing my mind at the thought of the two episodes that I just watched and the two episodes that I'm going to be talking about today. That is episode 6, The Fire, and episode 7, Born in the Dark. And when I say I'm losing my mind, I mean that in an overwhelmingly positive way, because I'm just blown away by how impressed I was by these episodes. Again, it's my, it's my once per video at least mentioning that I wasn't the biggest fan of the original story from the manga, and this is coming from somebody who, Bleach is my favorite. My favorite way to experience Bleach is the manga, but even then, I just had a lot of problems with that final arc, and so I was nervous about this anime, and this is the episode, specifically 6, but 7 is amazing as well, but episode 6, The Fire, is the episode that solidifies this as just a wonderful experience. I've loved, the episodes that we've seen so far. There was only one that I was disappointed by, but I've liked all the episodes so far. They've been good, but this one blew me away, and I'm sorry if I'm not more detailed than that, but I'm just gonna be a fanboy in this because I just think this episode is incredible and beautiful and shocking and all the good stuff mixed into one. I'm going to be mentioning a lot of the same stuff that I've talked about before, but hopefully, again, I can kind of highlight it more specifically in this review, this first thoughts video. Lighting and choices of color. Now look, when you're adapting a comic book, especially a black and white comic book, a manga, I feel like the original Bleach anime, even though I like it, it's never been what I would consider one of the best anime ever made. But I enjoyed it a lot because it told the story that I enjoyed. And it featured the characters that I liked. It even featured new stories with them. I enjoyed the filler in the original anime. But at the end of the day, most of that anime was just translating, still images to motion as simply as possible. They really didn't get too complicated. And it didn't play to the strengths of animation, in my opinion. Whereas, in comics, like, still images are a strength, and I think Kubo, of all artists in manga, and one of my favorite things about him is that he played to that strength. But that being said, Bleach the Thousand Year Blood War arc, especially in this, or not arc, anime, in this episode, in episode 6, they really play to the strengths of the medium. This is an animated show, and they really go out of their way to animate it, and it's beautiful, and it's weird, and it's fun, and it's fast, and it's fantastic. And then on top of that, again, adapting a black and white manga, using lighting, but using just color theory to their advantage, and having that really send a message of emotion and feeling while watching this episode, whether it's anxiety, whether it's safety, whether it's, heat, changing the lighting and using different colors. It's crazy how many different places visually this episode takes you using color and using lighting, and I'm just so impressed. And from that perspective, say what you will about the story, whatever, if you want to criticize the story, but from that perspective, I think this is an astounding anime so far. I'm head over heels for this anime. And once again, watching episode 6, I mean, I could just watch this episode on repeat. I'm watching footage from it again, and it's so gorgeous. But I could just watch this episode on repeat. But it felt like a movie. It's so weird. It's like I've watched so many episodes of the original Bleach anime, and they go by pretty quickly each. And yet this one is so well paced and so well made that episode 6 feels like an entire film. And watching 6 and 7 back to back it felt like I was watching a 3-hour movie. It was so satisfying, and I just am so happy that Bleach is back. I love Bleach. I'm just so excited that I'm excited that I love this. I was sitting on my couch watching this episode with my mind blown. I was holding my face, like, what is going on? What is happening? I'm so proud that this is so good. And yeah, I mean, I think I've already said the stuff that I like, right? Like, I think I've already sung its praises. I think I've gotten into detail about it. But just know that I could just rant about that in circles for a very long time, because this episode really impressed me. And again, I liked the first 3 episodes. 4, even though I was let down by episode 4, it's not like I hated episode 4. 5 I liked as well. But it's not like I disliked those episodes. It's just this episode really solidified this as like a worthwhile experience and as an incredible adaptation. And I'm very proud that it exists. I'm very excited to watch the original anime and then watch this again once this finishes. And I'm excited to see where it goes after this. Even if it loses momentum, even if it does disappoint me in other episodes, I feel like I will still be so on a high from kind of what this episode is showing off when it comes to this show's qualities, that I will be able to forgive it, And one of the biggest problems that I had with this arc back in the manga was just the buildup. And I think it felt very fast and very quick. It jumped into this arc way too fast, in my opinion. And one of my favorite things about like the Soul Society arc, for example, or Hueco Mundo, rescuing Orihime, rescuing Rukia, is that there was a lot of buildup that led to actually getting to the Soul Society. And then when you were in the Soul Society, there was a lot of buildup until you actually, hit a captain. You didn't just fight a captain day one. You fought a lieutenant. You fought a third seat. You fought a lieutenant. You fought you built up to that captain fight, and I felt like there was a similar momentum to Hueco Mundo as well. Which again, I wanted to make Bleach videos on this channel before I uploaded these kind of first reviews, but time just didn't allow. But to let you know who I am as like a Bleach fan, the Hueco Mundo arc, basically from going in, Uryu, Chad, and Ichigo going into Hueco Mundo, to the... I'm worried about spoilers, but again, if you're watching this, you hopefully have watched the original. When Stark kidnaps Orihime again, and you do turn back the pendulum, that whole arc is my favorite part of Bleach. I have a very strong love for that part of Bleach. So, anyway, the point being, the buildup was one of the things that I disliked the most about the original manga, and I was like, I would love this story so much more if it really gave me time to digest what's happening. And I feel like they've done a really great job building up, especially like giving this story its time. It basically gave this Yamamoto fight 3 episodes, and I feel like it really gave it its own time, and I appreciated that so much. Okay, we're gonna move on. I'll definitely say more about this, but I can't say enough how blown away I was by the quality of this episode in particular, but these 2 episodes together, my mind is blown. And again, the qualities that I'm praising in this episode exist in the other episodes as well. I don't want to make it sound like this is the only episode that's good. It's just that this is such a hyper-exaggerated version of that. It's performing at its best almost, both in storytelling, but also, story performance and visualization and execution, that it makes you go back and look at the similar things or the same things that the other episodes are doing prior, and it makes you appreciate them more, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case moving forward as well. All right, moving on. I swear this time. let's talk again. Again, we're retreading, but I have to sing its praises. Uryu and his scenes and his subplot, which is what opens episode 6. This is additional content that wasn't in the manga. I am so happy that it exists. And it's crazy how brief it is. What is it, like a minute of screen time, maybe 2? But I'm probably exaggerating it. But it's so good for establishing the future of this character in this arc. I'm very excited about what that means. I'm very happy that it's a part of this story. And even just in general, like I've said before, I think I've said it before, but one of my bigger criticisms of Bleach as a whole is that Kubo introduced these main characters, these protagonists in Orihime, Ichigo, Uryu, and Chad, and then it feels like he kind of forgets them or moves away from them in favor of the Soul Society and the 13 Court Guards, because those were the fan favorite characters, and I love those characters, but I also love these, supporting characters. So it's just nice to see Uryu in general, but it's especially nice because it's setting up a plot point that will be so much better with this setup, and that this setup was missing from the manga. So I'm very happy that this is included in the anime. But in addition to that, he provides this really interesting exposition on the Quincy's and Yamamoto that I think is really profound and really helpful. It's really helpful for, again, his trajectory as a character, for the audience's understanding of the world of Bleach, and even your understanding of Yamamoto and whether he's a virtuous person or not, and whether he deserves what's coming to him. I wasn't expecting that level of thought and care put into this. And again, I gotta praise it because it's just elevating this element of the story, and as a result, the story as a whole is being elevated by these very brief segments with Uryu. I also, again, love the lighting, and I love the juxtaposition of this like nightmarish, flaming, wasteland to Uryu underneath a very iconic Bleach bridge, right? With this very kind, lighting, this very kind sunlight, and I really loved that. Speaking of Yamamoto, again, the fight was incredible. That's all I'm going to say there. The fight was incredible. I loved the flashes of the younger Yamamoto. He was still an older guy back then, but the younger Yamamoto to the older Yamamoto. I loved those flashes back and forth. Again, kind of unique to the anime, and they really do hype it up here. And it just works so well. It really sends the message that this is a battle that has been, on the precipice for a long time, that this really is, whether it's right or wrong, whatever is happening right now, this has been in development for a long time, unfortunately. It really follows through on the Mayuri Kurotsuchi approaching Yamamoto and being like, you should have killed that man 2,000 years ago. I feel like flashing back and forth in these moments where they're fighting is very much so a good way to visually show that this has been a long time coming, and I really loved those moments. Again, I loved the fight. I genuinely think it's one of the best fights in the Bleach anime. I think it's just animated so incredibly. I think this honestly might be one of the best Bleach episodes in general amongst the new anime and the old anime. It's that freaking good. It's just it's not even just that it's a cool fight, right? Like, because I'm willing to separate, like, the fan service and be like, a good fight isn't just a story. I feel like a lot of anime fans focus on fights more than stories sometimes. Maybe not all anime fans, but, I mean, definitely not all anime fans, but there are definitely a lot of anime fans who are just focused on fights, which isn't a bad thing. But that being said, I feel like they do tell a coherent story here, or at least there's a journey for these characters as it's just an incredible fight. You know what I mean? In addition, Yuhabach, again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, but Yuhabach, this villain, this leader of the Quincy's, again, a lot of people hail him as like one of the best like villains in anime, I mean in manga or in shonen, and I never really felt that way. He's a well-designed villain, he looks cool, but again, I think I didn't have him introduced to me in the best possible way when this was first being written. And right now, again, this introduction, this whole fight scene, this episode 6 and 7, I feel like do a great job of reassuring the audience or introducing this character to the audience, rather. And so to me, he just feels like a way a much more incredible villain. I'm way more excited about him as an antagonist, and I feel like he was introduced really well here. I also love that his cloak is this deep red. I really like seeing it. It's something that I don't expect, and when he's in a certain lighting, I'm just like, oh wow, that's so interesting. He's got this deep red cloak that I just wasn't expecting to see. I loved the introduction of Aizen, going down into, this prison and seeing Aizen. Again, it's one of those moments that looked beautiful in the manga, and it's like, how can you outdo Kubo artwork? He's an incredible artist. He's one of the best, in my opinion, and he knows what he's doing. And the thing is, you can't outdo him. You gotta, do something different. And I think they did something really different. Again, playful with lighting, playful with negative space, being playful with shot composition and editing. And it's such a memorable and powerful moment to introduce Aizen. And again, maybe it's just time, right? Like maybe there's just been enough time since the original story was written to now. But for me, like I guess I am more excited to see Aizen now. Whereas when I was first reading this, I was like, well, we just saw Aizen like what, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. He hasn't been gone that long. So there's a possibility that the passage of time is also helping the story quite a bit. But the presentation of this story is also the case. If this wasn't presented as well as it is, I would not be singing its praises this much. But I genuinely think it's a fantastic anime so far, and it's a fantastic episode. So with that, let's move on to episode 7 really quickly and talk about something I wasn't expecting. Again, a new addition to the anime that wasn't in the manga, that is huge. We get this opening sequence from the past where the original 13 court guards, the original 13 captains, are fighting this army of Quincy's, are fighting Yuhabach in the past. It's this high contrast, violent fight scene at the start of the episode. And for those of you who aren't longtime Bleach fans, this is a huge moment because we've seen these characters silhouetted in the manga a couple times, I think. And we've heard about this dark era where these 13 captains kind of just were, running rampant, and how, modern 13 court guards wanted to rise above that. And the big surprise was that we finally get to see the designs for all of them at this time, which was, as a fan, that kind of fan service is incredible. You know what I mean? But moving away from just being excited as like a Bleach lore fan, getting to see their designs and having that wonderful surprise, just this opening is such a great start to the episode. And again, it helps this story so much. It helps elevate what are the what the stakes are, who this villain is, where he comes from, what kind of person he is, and what the Soul Society's role is in all of that. I can't say enough how great this sequence was, and again how much they kind of let it do its own thing, and they hint to it, they talk about it throughout the rest of the episode, but really it is its own little sequence. And then, of course, we get another flashback after the opening that is from the manga, but it makes that flashback, this warm-colored, friendly flashback, much more powerful as this, like, happier time, or maybe not even happier, but more peaceful time, juxtaposed by a bookends of the past, what starts at the beginning of the episode, this nightmarish 13 court guards, to the future where the Soul Society is being destroyed. It's a really cool sequence, and again, it just, these little additions elevate the existing material so much, and it just makes me so happy. A couple more things before we wrap up my thoughts is I loved the music in these two episodes, 6 and 7. There were more electronic tracks. I really loved that. I was talking in the previous First Thoughts videos how I wanted a little bit more of that, and I feel like they delivered in these episodes. But on top of that, the orchestral soundtracks were insane in terms of just like over-the-top hype. For these fight scenes, the whole symphony was going nuts. You know what I mean? They were just demolishing their instruments. There was a fire because they were just shredding the strings so hard. It was incredible. The choir was golden. I don't know. It blew me away listening to these tracks, and it really elevated. Everything was firing on all cylinders. The animation was incredible, and the music was facilitating that. The animation would be good on its own, even if it was muted, but it's like tripled how good it is with the fantastic soundtrack, and I really did appreciate that, and I thought that was really fantastic. I also love that there's a return of a couple tracks that I really enjoyed. Nothing Can Be Explained. That's the name of the song. That's one of my favorite Bleach songs ever. I would consider that closer to like the Bleach theme song, and I was very excited to hear a version of it. Is it my favorite version? Probably not, but I was just excited to hear a version of it and an acknowledgement of that song because I really love it and I really cherish that version of the song. I just cherish that song, so I love to hear new versions of it. And I just like to hear it in Bleach. I also love the fight additions between Ichigo and Yuhabach. There are a lot of additional, fight sequences. Same thing with Yamamoto and Yuhabach. Like, they're embellishments, right? Like, again, in manga, in comics, it excels at showing you these still moments that maybe wouldn't look as good in animation. But in animation, they can connect the dots between those moments, and though they can't show you, or it's not as interesting to show you just still images in animation, they can really go crazy, and show you some cool sequential movement between the panels. And I think they did a great job. I think they really took advantage in both fights and showed us some really new and unique and honestly just cool fight stuff. There's a really, again, really dramatic moments at the end where, the Soul Society really is losing. The Serite is really losing everything, and they're all being attacked on all fronts. And we get these CGI soldiers. Again, I've kind of mentioned this. I'm not the biggest fan of the use of CGI in anime. It's becoming more and more prominent. But that being said, I'd say this is probably my least favorite use of it so far in this particular anime, in the Thousand Year Blood War. But that being said, I don't think it was awful. Like, it was fine. I even understand why they did it. Totally understandable. Makes sense to me. And it was just a couple moments. It's my least favorite, but it doesn't matter that much. There are other anime that do it way worse. I'm a big Berserk fan, and even the the Golden Age arc anime trilogy of films. I love that series of films, but I just wish it didn't use as much CG. And I feel like in this, they're really only using it when it's a necessity, and I greatly appreciate that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I guess, meta storytelling. And there might be a minor spoiler here, but I don't necessarily consider this a huge spoiler. I don't know. I'm just gonna warn you now. This might be a spoiler. So if you want to skip this, I suppose go like I'll put the time code. That's what I'll do. I'll put a time code. So essentially, Byakuya in the episode, in episode 7, has a death moment, right? Like, he dies. In my opinion, this moment happens in the manga. If you didn't read the manga, now I don't know how true this is, so I'm going to just put that out there. But from my reading, I had read a story that essentially Kubo intended to kill Byakuya Kuchiki in the manga when he died in this moment. But he saw the reaction on Twitter and essentially had a change of heart. And the spoiler is that he brought Byakuya back in the next couple of chapters after that, right? Now, I read superhero comics. I read, shonen manga. Like, I death and resurrections are a big part of these stories. I'm not super offended by it. But I do think that this is a powerful moment, and I think if he intended to kill the character, he should have done it, I'm not saying I want Byakuya gone. I love the character, and I like the moments that he has in the manga after he's resurrected. But basically what I'm trying to say is I'm very curious if he will stay dead here. Will they stay to what I've heard is the original story, that Byakuya was supposed to die? If that's not the case, I apologize, for extrapolating on something that isn't true. But from what I've heard and from what I've read, that was the original intention. And again, I'm watching this episode. I'm seeing the interaction between Byakuya and Ichigo. I'm seeing the editing. It's such an emotional, powerful moment. It really does feel like they're sending off Byakuya. And I think it would be a good passing, especially, yes, it's cruel and it's sad, but it's also Byakuya is going and saying, it's shameful, but I trust that Ichigo will do what we cannot. So it's a good way to send him off. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Is I'm curious if Byakuya actually is going to pass, if this actually is his death scene. And not that I dislike him, and I'll be fine if they do resurrect him. I'm not going to be upset about that. That's the original story. But, or at least it's the story that was published. But I do wonder if they'll keep him dead. And I honestly would like it if they kept him dead, because that was the original intention, to my knowledge. Okay, I don't consider the next thing I'm about to talk about a spoiler, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Skip to this time if you don't want to hear me talk about it, if you're new to this story. But I personally don't think it's that big of a spoiler. But again, if you really don't want anything spoiled, don't listen to this next segment. One of the last moments that I think is very funny is the reveal at the end of Ichigo, the vague reveal at the end for Ichigo, and they say, "My son born in the dark." I don't know. Again, I might talk about this in other videos in the future, more Bleach videos in the future. When I was first reading this story, that reveal, and again, keep in mind, I wasn't enjoying this at the time. So, Yuhabach says, "My son born in the darkness." I took that so incredibly literally. And I don't know if that's the intention. I don't know if that was they either did it on purpose. Like I to this day I'm not sure. But yeah, so this moment of my son born in the darkness, I just am still not sure whether it was intentional or not. But it upset me so much back in the day because it felt like such a random throw in at the last minute. And then when it came to the payoff, it was like, "Oh, you're my metaphorical son. All you are my children." And I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. So if you're watching this for the first time, that's the reveal, I suppose. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. I'm glad I did flag it as a spoiler, but it's more of a metaphorical thing. And so when they mentioned that, when that line was here, I almost wondered if I was wondering if they were going to cut it out, but they did it, and I was like, wow, interesting. It's just such an interesting line to me. I don't know. And with that, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts for now. I can tell that I'm repeating myself a lot and that I'm on the road to repeat myself even more. To wrap up my thoughts, what can I say? I loved these episodes. I loved these episodes, both of them. Both of them I absolutely loved. 6 really set me off, though. Like, it blew my mind how good 6 was. I just rewinded a bunch of sequences while watching it, and I brought my wife into the room, and I was like, yo, you gotta check this out. Look at this. I was just so stoked about this episode, and 7 also delivered. It was also incredible, but 6 really is one of the best Bleach episodes, in my opinion. They just did such a cool job. I loved these episodes. I loved these episodes. I talk about it all the time about giving. I rank things out of 20. If I was gonna rank these episodes right off the bat, I don't know. I'd give it like a 19 out of 20. Both of them. I think they're both incredible. Story. At least 6. 6 is a 19 out of 20 definite for me. And it just was so beautiful. It was taking advantage of this adaptation as an animation, adapting a manga. I loved that. I loved the storytelling. I think the story that was told was really great. I feel like this would be an interesting story to just watch episodes 6 and 7 together. I feel like you'd get a great... I feel like you would enjoy yourself if you've never watched Bleach, if you just watched these 2 episodes. Obviously, you'd be missing out on a lot. But I feel like episode 6, like, you get a lot of information in there. You know what I mean? I don't know. Again, I'm repeating myself. I loved these 2 episodes. Episode 6, man, it's one of the best episodes of any Bleach. And I hope that we just continue to see more quality like this in the future. I hope that they continue to do innovative stuff. I hope that they continue to take advantage of the medium of animation. Like, what an amazing... I can't compare this to the manga. You know what I mean? The manga is its own wonderful thing. I know all I've done is compare it to the manga, right? But like... really, from a performance aspect, like, I love Kubo's artwork. I loved seeing his artwork, and that's one of the best parts of this arc from the manga, even if I am not a fan of it. But this animated as uniquely as it is, it's its own experience that really sets itself apart, and I love that. I love it so much. So again, I hope this quality continues moving forward, and if it doesn't, I hope that the momentum of this episode helps me enjoy the weaker parts of the future. If we do, I hope we don't have weaker parts of the future, but if, the future episodes I'm not as into, I hope that the momentum of this episode and these episodes keeps me, on Bleach the Thousand Year Blood War, because these make me so excited to have Bleach back. These make me so happy. These get me so excited. These get me so hype that I'm just going to ramble and ramble and ramble. So I don't know. I'm going to leave it at that. If you're not watching this, go watch it. What are you doing? And if you've seen episode 6 already, watch it multiple times, and then watch episode 7 a bunch of times too. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go watch these episodes again. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always going to make the videos that I want to make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. Over on my Twitch channel, we typically play superhero games like Marvel's Avengers, Gotham Knights, and Marvel Snap, in addition to the occasional horror game like Resident Evil. But the month of December is the carrotscraps Winter Games, which means that occasionally we'll be playing winter-themed games like Miles Morales Spider-Man or the snow levels in a Mario game. So if any of that sounds interesting to you at all, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/carrotscraps. And all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. In addition, as a reminder, I will not be using footage from the episode during my review, and instead you'll be checking out Bleach. Oh no, I can't say Bleach Brave Souls. It's so difficult. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that during the video, you'll be watching Bleach Brave Soul game. You'll be watching footage from Bleach. You'll be watching footage from Bleach. Oh my god, why is it so tough for me to say Bleach Brave Souls? It's like a tongue twister. Bleach Brave Souls. I can say it now, but when I try to read it, whenever I record, I can never do it.